Okay, this is it. Let's kickstart. So the first couple of minutes, we can just kind of shoot the shit.
Okay.
I would recommend that you don't swear as much as I'm going to swear, if I swear at all. I am going to try and watch my swearing, but sometimes when I'm passionate, I swear a
Let it
little bit.
loose.
Well, I definitely let it loose. So yeah, so this is a podcast, and it's really to explore what it's like living with a vegan. Now, we don't actually live together, but you are my sister.
Hmm.
And I have not always been vegan, but I have been vegetarian for some time. Do you remember when I became vegetarian?
I mean, I think it was over 10 years ago. Might
This
be
Yeah, this is my 10th year.
okay. 10 years. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, if anything, do you remember about when I became vegetarian?
What do I remember about when you became vegetarian? Like, what do you mean? What do I remember about it?
I guess, do you
Why
remember, yeah,
or
do you remember why? Do you remember?
yeah, I think I remember that you had, I think, watched some documentaries on Netflix, What the Health and Cowspiracy.
Yep.
And you had initially, I think you'd become impassioned about really what was in those two podcasts. So the environmental implications about eating meat and the health implications about eating meat. And I remember you talking about those
Yeah.
things. And from my perspective, at least, what I thought at that time or what I remember is that your initial reasoning for becoming a vegetarian were predominantly those two things.
It's funny you say that because I kind of see it as being more environmental. But you're right. I did watch What the Health. I actually forgot about that until you just said that. It was actually, I think I watched What the Health after I watched Cowspiracy.
Yeah.
Because when I recall it myself, and when I retell the story of becoming a vegetarian, it's really mainly about two things. One, I was taking a class about cognitive dissonance at McGill. Right when I was going back and forth from Toronto, we were setting up the business, when mom and I were setting up the business in Toronto, right?
Hmm.
And so that, and then I watched Cowspiracy, and then Tasia's friends, a couple of Tasia's friends, if you remember, were vegan. Do you remember?
No, I don't remember that. You were
Yeah.
living in Montreal at the time?
I was living much well, I was living half
Half, right.
half
Okay.
half in each, right? So half the
Yeah.
week in Montreal, half the week in Toronto. And I really remember it being for environmental reasons, because, or maybe that's just because I remember having the argument or discussion with mom at brunch, eating a ground bacon sausage, which I've told before. And I said, "We've gone too far with meat, you know?" And then mom said, "Well, if you care so much, then do something about it." And then I became a weekday vegetarian.
Right. I do remember initially you were a weekday vegetarian, and I remember well, I just remember because I feel that it's a difference from how you are now,
I
that
would
your
imagine.
initial reasoning for being vegetarian was not the reason that you're a vegan now. Like, in the sense that
Oh
it may
yeah.
be features, but
So
it's not your now, it's much more centered around the animal rights piece, I think. And then it was much more, as you said, because of the environmental reasons and the health reasons. But I agree with you that I agree with you that now that you're saying that, I remember the environmental reasons featuring more strongly.
Yeah, but you're right. You're right, because What the Health was one of the, like, it was one of the documentaries that I watched that impacted me as well. It kind of like, it was one of the other components that clicked in my mind as being, I think there was too many elements that led me to kind of a conclusion that we should be vegetarian. And I was just like, I'm doing it. After mom challenged me, of course, which, as you know,
You do
uh,
well with being challenged.
I do well with being challenged.
Yeah.
I like to be challenged, and
You like to prove people wrong.
I like to prove people wrong. I like to prove people wrong. And so part of this, so and we haven't really done a bit of an intro yet, but this is Tatyana. You are my older sister, my only older sister.
Older sister.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have two other sisters, Shar and Tasia. They're
Yeah.
younger than both of us. So I became a vegetarian in isolation, right? And, like, as in, we didn't have any, I can't think of any, although we do have some family members in Germany. These are probably the only people I know that are in our family, outside of Lulu, who was a vegetarian.
Was she a vegetarian before you?
I
Actually,
think
I
she
can't remember.
was a vegetarian before me, but she was kind of a
Looser
flexitarian.
flexitarian. Yeah,
Yeah, she
I
definitely
think.
called herself, no, I think she would say that.
I think she ate fish sometimes. Like, I feel like she was a
Yeah, I
flexitarian,
think
pescatarian, but I
she
don't know the timing of all
no, no,
that,
no, I
but yeah.
definitely it was before, and I know that because I remember when I became a vegetarian and she had come back once from, I think, the Netherlands at that point, and she was like, "What the heck? Like, Christian becomes a vegetarian and everyone's about this now, and I've been a vegetarian for whatever." I feel like it was maybe 6 months, maybe a year before me, but she's not a vegetarian now at all, I don't think.
I don't think so, no. Well,
Um,
yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah.
although I have been trying with her and with Jake. I've been I
He's not a
really
vegetarian right now?
so he also was a vegetarian.
But he's not right now?
No, I don't think
Oh.
so.
Oh,
No,
okay,
I
okay.
don't think so, but
Okay.
I made some pretty compelling arguments last time, we'll see. But they live in London, heartbeat of the vegan movement.
Yes, that's true.
Yep.
But she is now pregnant and they are
Well, soon to not be pregnant due to giving birth. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
that's a
yeah.
weird way of saying
Yeah,
it, yeah.
very, very soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I think you did become vegan in isolation. Sorry, you became vegetarian in isolation.
Well, I also became
Yeah,
vegan in
you also became
isolation.
vegan in isolation, but I mean,
Yeah.
to go back to vegetarian, like, you did become vegetarian. See, now I have trouble saying it that way because I identify you as being a vegan now, but it's so stuck in my mind, I keep calling you vegan even when
So,
we're talking about it retroactively.
for sure,
Yeah,
one of the things I was talking to Brandon about
yeah.
last week when we sat down and chatted was how I'm ashamed at how long it took me to become vegan, having been vegetarian for so long. I was
Yeah,
vegetarian 7.5 or 8 years.
but see, I don't think that that seems weird to me because to me, because again, because of the reasons that you became a vegetarian, for
Mhm.
the environmental reasons and the health reasons.
Sure.
Now, although you can have arguments for those reasons applying to veganism too, I think that veganism, particularly the brand of veganism that you subscribe to, is much more full state of mind. That's not just there's a real ism to it.
There's a real
It's
ism
it's
to it.
it's
Yes, there's a real
it's very much of it. Like there's I don't know. There's something about the way that I think it would take a certain it probably takes a certain mindset shift. I think I saw that happen for you where like you had this real mindset shift that it really shifted from the environmental and the health reasons to being animal rights reasons.
Mhm.
And so I think anyways from watching you that it would seem to me that that's a really in a way of well, I think you can be vegan without it. Well, actually, having you and I have had discussions before,
Um,
plant-based versus veganism, but, like
sure.
but I think that for you, it's sort of you dove in, hook, line, and sinker. If that's an
I
expression,
don't
and I'm
know,
using
but
it correctly, but
I hardly do things halfway, I
you
think.
don't do things halfway, yes, no.
Yeah, but I'm very happy being vegan.
Yeah, yeah,
Resolute.
yeah.
I am convicted.
But I don't think you were a weekday vegetarian for that long. I think that was
I
not
was in my memory, I was a weekday vegetarian for about 6 months, but about 3 months of that was when I really used my weekday vegetarianism, meaning that I would get to the weekend and I was excited to have a hamburger, I was excited to have bacon a couple times, and then I slowly stopped, and then I got really disgusted. I remember I had chicken wings a couple times, and then I remember with Charles in Toronto, when I was because I was super strict, like, I was completely vegetarian Monday through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday, I would give myself the opportunity to eat meat if I wanted to. Again, I don't do things very lightly, and I remember he gave me some spring rolls, and they were pork spring rolls, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, I swear I thought they were vegetarian," and it was like a Thursday night or something. Those were good years in Toronto, but, he felt so bad, and if I were to put that into this context of my life now, it's not that I would freak out, like, I would freak out kind of in my own head if I ate any meat, and I haven't even accidentally that's not true. I had a spring roll maybe 2 months ago
what's it with
that
you and spring
well,
rolls?
no, it's just that someone told me it was vegan, and I took a bite of it, and I'm like, "This is not vegan," and
Mhm.
sure enough, there was, like, shrimp paste in it, so I spat it out and threw it out,
Yeah.
and it was a family member, and so I was like, "This is not vegan," and sure enough, everyone's like, it is." It was not vegan. It was not vegan. We went and found the box, and it was not vegan. I knew because I haven't had shrimp, I haven't had fish, I haven't had meat in so long. The moment I taste it, I know this is not right. and I won't pretend. I won't put it in my mouth and eat it anymore. I'm just like, it grosses me out entirely. I was at the cottage just the other day, and they were cooking bacon. I told you this
Mhm,
last night,
mhm,
right?
yeah.
And, they were cooking. I was just like, "I have to leave. This is so disgusting." It grossed me out so much, I got up and left.
Well, and see, there was a time that I remember in the first few years or first several years of you being a vegetarian, where even though you do jump into things hook, line, and sinker, but I remember you would try little things. If somebody
So
said, like, if I made something that had meat in
yeah,
it and I was, like, really proud of whatever I'd cooked or
yeah,
something, and I asked you, "Can you try?" And you would just,
yeah,
you would try, like, a little piece of stuff. You did
yeah,
that for
yeah, yeah.
years, you would still sort of do
I
that.
did it for about 4 years, and it's because I had a rule for myself, and it was kind of maybe an out. I think I the rule like, not the rule, I guess the guideline for myself was if there was something unique or some type of food because I guess the thing I was nervous about giving up was the experience. I didn't wanna travel and not be able to try some traditional dish that I would never try again. And there are moments now in my life that I look back on where, like, I ate a hamburger the last time, and I ate ribs the last time, and I ate pulled pork, and I ate sausages and whatever. Done. Never. Like, never again for my entire existence will I eat these things again, and I don't care. I don't care anymore. But then I cared. Then I didn't wanna lock myself out
Yeah.
entirely.
You didn't wanna rob yourself
I
of
didn't
the
wanna
experience.
yeah, because even then, I mean, I was bold, but I didn't wanna be completely isolated from life, from the experiences that life has to offer.
Well, so much of our life is revolves around food.
Yeah,
Of everyone's life, like our lives as
everyone's
humans.
life.
And I think meat in particular, but, in certain cultural dishes, like you're saying, and certain things, they feature really, really centrally to our lives. I mean, holiday meals, for example, right? They a lot of the time it's, for Christians at least, or for a lot of North Americans that are Christian or that Christian adjacent celebrate, holidays that have a turkey or a ham
Yep.
or maybe a duck, but, in the
Yeah,
UK,
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
it's goose, but, like,
Yeah.
like, the meat is the a
Central piece.
central piece
Of
of the
course.
meal.
Yep.
And not every culture is like that. There's, I think, like, for example, obviously in Indian culture, as Muhammad is his background is Indian, my husband, but Muslim, so they do eat meat. But, it's still there's lots of dishes. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
Indian dishes in general, it's not like the meat is necessarily always central
Yeah.
piece to what is eaten. But for North American and
Well,
a
it's
lot of
less
European
so in yeah,
countries,
yeah.
that's not the case. A lot of the time, the meat is very central
And
to.
it's only become more central to, like, barbecues and social gatherings because even, like, the traditional meals, the Thanksgiving, the Christmas, the Easter, I mean, these are all, Judeo-Christian holidays, but they all center around meat, but so does every other type of social gathering,
Right, because
basically, right?
before this was like a special occasion, and
Yeah,
a lot of the time people didn't necessarily have the money to be eating meat all the time either.
exactly.
Now, it's so accessible to people that in every social gathering, like you
Yeah,
said, there's meat. But
yeah.
then I would argue that there's also, I mean, veganism and vegetarianism have had, and not just that also, but other cultures have
Mhm.
influenced North American culture such that now there are also a lot more options for vegans and a lot more options for vegetarians.
For
Like,
sure.
especially
Well,
bowl food, I know that's weird to say, but I think bowl food, like
you
how
mean
we
like
eat a lot
burrito
of foods, yeah,
bowls
like bowls,
and
it doesn't you're not missing much in bowl food
poke
by
bowls or
not
whatever.
having,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly, like, by
Yeah,
not having meat necessarily.
yeah,
Like, there's substitutes for that.
yeah,
It's not like meat, starch,
yeah.
like the classic food guide of,
Yeah, but
you know
it's bringing in those other cultures that still didn't center every single meal around meat.
yeah.
Because certainly the cultures that brought meat to the forefront is North America. It's the US.
Well,
Like,
although they
I mean,
do eat a
you're
lot of meat in other
no,
cultures
no, for
too,
sure.
some
But
Asian cultures and Indian, not
for sure,
necessarily
but
Indian, but all
there are
Asian.
Asian yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, like, the idea that you should be eating meat every single meal, like, multiple like, some people are having their breakfast sandwich, and they're eating 3 animal products or 4 animal products in 1 sandwich. This is crazy. Also, the cost of it and the both the environmental cost, but the economic cost is insane. You know what I mean? You need an egg, you need cheese, you need bacon, you need ham or whatever, like, you need mayonnaise, you need all these things. every single component of it is animal derived, and we eat that all the time. It's constant,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
And that, I mean, I remember that was to me when you made that argument as well from a health perspective when you first became a vegetarian. I mean, I think that even though I'm neither, but that I do find compelling. I do
mhm.
think we eat way too much meat in the North American, European context. I mean, I think that this 3
Yeah,
meals of
yeah,
meat a
yeah,
day, I think
yeah.
I think that there's probably quite a lot of evidence, no matter where you fall on the vegan vegetarian spectrum, and I'm not an expert in this, but I think there's probably quite a lot of evidence that that's not particularly healthy. Particularly red meat
I think there's
and,
tons of
you know
evidence to say that
yeah,
eating meat is not healthy.
yeah.
There's most research, at least from what I know, points to the fact that just eating meat is not good for you. Like, I would say period myself, but certainly a significant reduction in meat consumption. If you think about the blue zones, if you think about all these things, meat consumption is way down. They're saying like 90%. It's high. It's 80, 90, 95% of your food and your calories are coming from non-animal derived sources. I mean, if and I make this argument a lot, but if you think about it from like an animal cousin standpoint, primates, all these like it doesn't make any sense. We're not cats. We're not obligate carnivores. So eating meat at every single meal, I'm not arguing we can't eat meat, but it doesn't make much sense.
Right.
Why do we eat so much meat? Because it's tasty, it's fatty, it's
I
salty.
think also because it's accessible. It's just it is
Well, but it's
accessible, and it's
accessible at what
also
cost?
filling.
Yeah, for sure, it's filling.
Yeah.
But does that help? I mean, we've got crazy, like, obesity crises going on all over the place because of the surplus in calories, right? So, you're right. I mean, yes, like, it's satiating, it's delicious, I don't think any vegan would say I mean, grosses vegans out now, but I don't think that if they think about when they ate meat, they'd probably not say like, most people would not say it grossed them out. They liked it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that I would imagine that historically, like, a couple things happened sort of at the same time. Like, you know, we were this largely agricultural society in North
Mhm.
America, and that was pretty much the foundation of North American culture, largely
Yep.
agricultural. And as the potato and meat started to become more accessible, and at that time, I think if you're working the farm and you're doing things that are really manually intense, eating that amount of calories in a day is not necessarily going to be quite as bad for you. I'm not suggesting I don't know about the
Sure.
meat component. I'm just saying sociologically. But then I was reading something recently about the potato and how the potato became so much more accessible. And then we also became really sedentary. And
Right.
then both of those things combined have just been really,
Like, with
really
the in
bad for an obesity, for
Yeah.
obesity.
I mean, I so one of the things I don't buy super like, I just don't believe it that much anymore is I don't think that people back in the day, even like a couple 100 years ago, would be eating that much meat.
No, I agree. Yeah, I
Because
agree. Yeah.
it's cost prohibitive.
Yeah, I don't think
You
anyone for
why
sure.
would you kill a cow that can plow your field or provide milk or cheese? I'm not saying that they were vegan, but why would you do that when they probably do more for you alive than dead? Like, we for the most part, there would come a time that they have to be killed or they get sick and they die and you probably eat them. But I don't think that I just don't think that people were it wasn't nearly as significant. Those traditions, those meals and holidays that we eat meat around, I think those were probably the ones where it was like, "Okay, you're gonna eat you know what I mean? You're gonna kill a pig or you're gonna kill" but, I mean, there are a lot of cultures that still do that, right? And they have sacrifices effectively, and they're like, "We're killing the goats and we're eating the goats." But they still eat meat all the time now, right? And so, I don't know.
No,
Like
that's probably true. I mean, just from an accessibility, poverty perspective, I think you're probably right that historically people weren't eating
because
as much meat as
it's
that, for
economic
sure.
nonsense, right?
Yeah,
Like, you have to grow all this grain,
yeah,
feed it to your animal, and then kill the animal. It's like, just eat the grain. You don't need to run it through an animal. If you do
mhm,
that, it makes no sense. It
yeah.
actually costs you calories.
No, the mass production of meat is
Bit of technical difficulties, but we're back. We were talking about agriculture
yes.
and the inefficiency of basically grain production to then feed animals and why that makes no sense or why it makes no sense to me, I would say. Um, yeah, where were we going with that?
I think we were just talking we got off a sort of a sidetrack, but about the centrality of meat in meals in modern day society and
Right.
why that makes it hard to be vegan or vegetarian.
So, okay, yeah. So maybe that brings us to one of my key questions, which is through me, you've had now, not just me, you actually know a couple of vegan. How many other
Several.
vegans?
Well, I mean, if I think if we're talking in my broader social circle, I
Yeah.
mean, acquaintances and people like that. Actually, I feel like I know quite a lot, like maybe over 10, I think.
And that's a huge number, honestly,
Yeah, no, I
of
mean, to
vegans.
varying degrees of closeness, obviously.
Sure.
Some close friends, some,
Sure.
acquaintances and colleagues and
Okay,
stuff,
so it's
but yeah.
certainly not just me that
No.
you know,
Yeah.
but as your brother, I would imagine I'm the closest person to you that's vegan.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. One could say that
One
I've
could
known
say.
you since you were born.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have not known you since you were born,
Yeah.
but so how has your perception of veganism changed between, I guess, me either pre-vegetarian or pre-vegan and now post? I guess what did you think or how did you think of a vegan and how do you think of a vegan now?
Well, I think it's interesting because you becoming a vegan and your transition from vegetarianism to veganism, I think also occurring in the last 10 years, there was societally, I think, a big shift in the
Oh, big time.
rise of plant-based options and the sort of proliferation of like plant-based food in that time as well.
Yeah.
So it's impossible in a way, I think, to detach myself fully from that experience because I saw
Yeah.
that at the same time as you also were kind of going through your vegetarian to vegan journey.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think the 2 things that I would say is that I mean, I do have an appreciation for why you're vegan. Like,
Mm.
in this I'm not, but I do take your points, and I know that I've been able to hear a lot of what you've had to say about veganism.
How outspoken would you say I am?
You are incredibly outspoken. It's
Really?
actually probably why I
Mm.
know as many vegans as I do, because I think that I talk about you being a vegan a lot, and then people will say like, I actually come to know other people's dietary
It's
and, like, their lifestyles because I
right.
bring you up in
It's
conversation.
funny you say that because you said something to me recently, like a couple weeks ago, maybe months ago, and you said something along the lines, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you said something like, "Yeah, but you're always trying to convert people to veganism." And I was like, "No, I'm not." My response in my head, whether or not I said anything or not, I feel like I did say something, but my response was, "No, I'm not." But now I am. Like, now I'm really going after it.
I find that so weird that you
Yeah.
thought a couple months ago that you didn't think you did that.
I
You
actually
didn't think you did that?
I did not think I did that, and honestly, you have no idea how much of a compliment that is.
I feel like you are what I've described as an evangelical vegan. Like, in the sense that you
Well,
are proselytizing veganism all the time.
I would say that every vegan is an evangelical
No,
vegan.
but like I said, I know,
Ye
probably about roughly 10 vegetarians or vegans. I don't know if the
Sure.
full vegans, all of them, but like I by far, and now, yes, granted, we are
No,
closer.
I'm your brother, though.
You're
Yeah,
my
yeah,
brother.
yeah, yeah.
But for sure you talk more about veganism than any of the other ones
And
that I
would
know.
you say that that has had any degree of success
No. To me, no.
to others?
Well, yes, because some of our family members have since become vegan
Right.
and or vegetarian.
Outside of our family, though, not so much success.
Right, and I can't speak to that because 'cause I'm not with you in those conversations, but I mean, to be honest, I mean, it's like the same, not to get too down into a rabbit hole, but I think
Mm,
sometimes that even people who, when you hear the person on the street corner,
yeah,
right, evangelizing,
sure.
do I think that that has a large degree of success for people? No. I think in
Yeah.
some ways, sometimes that turns people off. Now,
Well, I think
I don't think you're doing it in the same way. I do wanna clarify, I don't think you're
it's
doing
okay.
that because you're not because you have relationships with the people that you're speaking to, and I think that fundamentally changes the dynamic.
Yes, but I actually think that makes it harder. So I think that it's funny, I was at the Veg Fest, which is actually a vegan fest in Ottawa here, and someone was speaking and they spoke about how the hardest people to convert are your family, like, and your friends, b because they know you, and because they knew you before you were vegan, and I think that's true. I don't think it's easier to convert the people closest to you. I think it's harder. I think it's got a lot of emotional baggage. I think that strangers in some cases are far easier. I can just tell people something. Like now I'm at restaurants sometimes. I was at the club the other day and they had a dish and I think I told you this and it was a vegan cheese eggplant parmesan. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, great, I'll get this." And they're like, "Sorry, not actually vegan." Like, "What the hell? What are you doing?" And I told them, I was like, "This is a huge mistake." I said, "I'm a vegan, and you put an item on your menu with vegan cheese. Who is gonna eat that?" Like, I guess someone who's lactose intolerant, maybe, but why the hell would you put it was egg that was in the batter of the eggplant parmesan. It's ridiculous. You've completely screwed me. And so I told them, I was like, "This is not acceptable." I mean, especially in that environment.
Yeah,
I
hey, to
feel
yeah,
entitled to
yeah,
say,
for
"What the
sure.
heck?" But also we were at a restaurant just down the street, and I was talking to someone, I was with my colleague, and her and I were out for dinner, and now I just won't pay for stuff if there's meat, like, I just will not pay for it. I won't pay for it in my personal life, I will not pay for it at work. I have to pay for it through work, like, they're gonna turn around and claim it, but I won't pay for it right in that moment. And I know it ticked her off, but that's okay, and I don't care. I said, "Turn around and claim it." Like, that's an extra hurdle for you. I could just pay for it right now, but if you're buying meat, I will not be part of it. It's the same discussion actually you and I had at length, right? When you were asking me, "Should I buy hamburgers for our friends or whatever," right?
Got
For my friends, right?
yeah, it was
Or
for your friends,
it was
yeah.
for my friends. I was like,
Yeah.
"Stop asking me, stop talking to me about this. I'm not gonna be part of the decision making in this process because that like, then I'm affiliated with it. I can't be a part of it. I can't be a part of the decision making tree that gets us to a point where I'm contributing to it." And the more I'm vegan, the more that makes sense. The more I see that that's actually alignment with my principles and in alignment with my actions because I have a certain degree of resources and influence in my life and as best as I possibly can, where practical and possible, which is from the definition of veganism, I will eliminate it, right? And so I don't know where I was coming from with that, but I guess for restaurants where they have vegan options that aren't vegan, drives me nuts. Drives me absolutely nuts.
That is yeah, well, that is full like, I mean, it was just like with yesterday with the Super Bowl party,
Uh-huh.
of all the Super Bowl gathering that I had,
Yeah.
when I got cauliflower bites, and I
Yeah.
assumed that the cauliflower bites were vegan until I got home and my husband looks at it and goes, "You realize this has milk in it." And I had got those for you thinking that
Yeah.
but to me, it didn't make any sense as to why a product that is clearly vegetarian, like why you wouldn't double down and just make that
Yeah.
vegan. Because your audience of people and sure now a lot of people eat cauliflower butts now, but they eat but and to be fair, I do think that that's weird because
But you don't need the milk in it.
no,
It
you don't
makes,
need the
like,
milk in
literally
it.
no difference.
But like the thing that I think that the challenge that you probably experience is that I think that the rise in plant like I don't think I could be wrong, but I don't think that the amount of vegans has significantly increased in North America over like it might have
Yeah, I don't
increased, but I don't think it's not increased,
I
increased.
I don't know. I don't know
Like
the
it's
numbers on this. It definitely has
I'm sure it's
increased, but it's an
increased.
extremely small amount of people.
Right. I think,
Yeah.
and we've talked about this
Yeah.
before, that the rise, for example, in plant-based milk options has nothing to do with veganism. It
Well,
doesn't have
I
anything to do with
yeah.
vegans
Yeah.
becoming more prominent. I
No.
think it has to do with people deciding, largely in urban centers, that they don't wanna
Well, like,
consume milk anymore.
no, but most people are lactose intolerant. It's absolute nonsense. It's like 70% of the globe or
Right,
something
as they're
stupid like
becoming
that. It's like
adults.
50
Yeah,
to 70%. It's like a huge, huge
yeah,
amount of people. No other mammal drinks milk their entire life.
yeah.
It's sheer nonsense.
But as a result of that,
Yeah.
I think that, like, in restaurants and stuff, the same way that celiacs have this issue when they go to restaurants and it's like, "Oh, this is gluten-free," but then
Yeah.
they can't confirm that it's celiac.
Yeah.
Celiacs probably benefit from the fact that there are a lot more people who've decided to go gluten-free even if they don't have an allergy,
Mhm.
but it's made it more accessible, but it hasn't actually fully taken out the gluten
Yeah.
contamination, and in the
Yeah.
same way, I think for vegans have benefited from the fact that there's a lot more plant-based products out there
Yeah.
that are not actually necessarily being consumed by vegetarians or vegans. People just maybe being health conscious or for
Sure.
whatever reason,
Sure.
calorie wise or whatever it is, have decided to eat less meat and less animal products.
Yeah.
They, but that then you wind up in these weird situations where these cauliflower bites that should be vegan are not.
Yeah.
And to me,
Yeah.
you're right. It doesn't make any difference whether or not there's milk in there.
Yeah.
Like, why? I don't care if there's milk in there or not. I'm not like, why isn't there milk in the
Mm,
cauliflower
the dairy
bites?
lobby cares, but
Well, the
yeah.
dairy lobby cares,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but I
yeah,
don't care,
yeah,
like, I mean, like, to me
yeah,
as a consumer eating it, I
yeah.
don't notice the difference. But, I mean
No, it's an extremely frustrating thing as a vegan. I That's why long time ago when I first became vegan, because 'cause I'm coming up on almost 3 years vegan, which I would still say is a very young vegan, but is like, just friggin' make it vegan. Like, make it vegan. I would say, yes, vegetarians care when is involved because vegetarians just, like, live off cheese. And if vegetarians don't live off cheese, like God, why are you vegetarian? Just become vegan because then you're just cutting out eggs. Like, at a certain point, what the heck? Now, I say that, I'm not dismissing the fact that veganism is far more than just a dietary thing. But if the hurdle that
Mm,
is in your way is cheese or well, cheese is always the one people say. They're like, "I could do it." Like, literally every person you talk to, they're like, "Ah, I could be vegan, but no cheese like, without cheese? No, no way," right?
for
Like,
sure.
people love cheese. They lose it for cheese.
Well, yeah,
They
I love
can't.
cheese.
Well, who doesn't love cheese? It's not unique,
It's, like,
like
addictive.
yeah.
It
No,
literally, it
it is
is.
od
Yeah,
it is
I know.
addictive.
Yeah,
Casein triggers the morphine, like,
yeah,
thing, like, that's why it's
it's
addictive.
incredible.
Yeah, of course, it's incredible. Why is it like that, though? It's like that because milk for babies is meant to subdue them and, like, calm them down.
So we get calmed down by cheese?
Yeah, for sure, because more if it acts on, like, the same kind of opiate pathways that, like, opiates would, then, of course, it would calm you down and chill you out,
Mm,
right?
wow.
And what's the function of milk for a mammal? It's only when you're a baby. So, it's got all these growth hormones in it, it's got all these fats in it. And then I don't know. I honestly haven't looked this up, but my guess is that casein operates on the whatever it's the casein morphine whatever pathway something or other. I don't really know, but I imagine it does that because it chills you out. Like after you get fed as a baby, be it a baby cow or a baby human or a baby chipmunk or whatever, you you chill out. You can go to
I
sleep.
don't know, though. My baby, like, when when we feed him his morning formula, like his
Yeah.
morning milk, and he drinks right now, he's drinking, like, 220 milliliters of this formula. You know, he's cow's milk protein intolerant, right? So we have to give him this special formula. And but he drinks it, and it's as though he's had his coffee in the morning.
Mm.
After he drinks that milk, he's, like, ready to go.
Right, but when he was first born, that wasn't the case. They go right to sleep, right? Like when they get milk drunk, the idea of getting
Um,
like
yeah, but, like, I mean, they eat throughout the day, and they're not always going to sleep. As they get a
yeah,
little
yeah.
older, they're not always going to sleep
Well,
right after they have
it's
milk.
very
Yeah.
minor. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
like
yeah,
you're
yeah.
actually
No, I mean,
taking
that may be
opioids,
what you're
but
saying may be true, but I'm just saying that
I
there's
don't
just an
honestly, I don't know if it's true, but I know that it operates, like, on the same
no,
pathways.
yes, I know about
That
the
piece is.
addictiveness. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah,
Because when
yeah.
you're off cheese, having been off cheese for a long, long time now, I mean, because I also grew up lactose intolerant, and as a vegetarian, I didn't eat much cheese, although there were times I ate a lot of cheese. I don't think about cheese anymore. It's not in my life. No, I don't. It's completely out of mind. Like, I don't think about it. I'm not like, "Oh, I wish I had cheese."
But it can't be
Yeah.
addictive in the same way that, like, coffee's addictive because it doesn't because you don't like, you know, like and I eat a lot of cheese, but
I don't know. Have you ever gone a week without eating cheese? Like a full week without
well,
eating cheese?
I did test my lactose intolerance
Yeah.
once for 3 months, and so I knew, like, it so, yes, I did. I went 3 months without eating cheese or
And
dairy.
how did you feel?
I mean, I don't think I noticed a difference in the moment as much. I noticed when I ate cheese back that I reacted to it,
That you
like
felt bad?
Parmesan, 'cause
Parmesan even.
right, but because when you
Mm.
go I think my own personal theory, and this is based on no
Yeah, yeah.
evidence whatsoever,
Yeah.
but my own personal theory is that I think I subdue my lactose intolerance by eating small amounts of dairy all the time.
I think that's actually probably true.
Yeah,
I think that a
yeah.
lot of people do that. I
Like,
think
I
that if you
find if
eat
I go off of
too
it,
much
it's
dairy or too much of one type of dairy someone was telling me the other day that when they eat milk or they drink milk from cows that are grass-fed, they respond differently than from cows that are corn-fed. And so mass manufactured milk,
how can you know that? How do you know?
I think
How do you find that
there are
out?
jurisdictions where well, I think you can also buy specifically like grass-fed milk, like grass-fed like
Uh,
versus corn or soy
mm,
fed
hmm.
cows, which most mass facilities would feed them corn or soy or a combination thereof or something like that. It's calorically way more dense. If not, a cow has to be grazing like all the time. You're sucks.
Oh, that
Not
must
very
be
cost effective.
why our doctor, like our pediatrician, in the context of the cow's milk protein intolerance for our baby, he said soy and milk, dairy, are closely linked, and if have an intolerance to protein in milk, cow's milk, you likely also have an intolerance to soy, or we can't tell the difference what it is or something like that.
Mm,
So, I don't but I'm wondering now if it's I didn't look into this at all, but because this is the first I've heard of what you just said,
mm.
but I never once thought about what cows were eating,
Yeah, not
but
sure
I'm not
about
sure.
that because
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the relationship between soy and dairy, cow dairy is,
Well, I'm
but
just wondering if, like, if they're eating soy, if that's the reason.
well,
If it's not that they're
maybe. Yeah.
related, but if it's
Yeah.
that they eat soy,
'Cause I
I
mean,
don't know.
soy milk is very, very different
Well, yeah, that's
than
I
cow's
know. So
milk,
I'm
right? Yeah,
wondering
yeah.
if
If it's the
if it's
soy and
just the fact that it's the soy that the cows
yeah, I
are
don't
eating.
know.
But anyways,
I
now
don't
I'll
know.
look into that.
Yeah.
But that's
But
interesting.
I mean, talking about milk, that is one of the craziest propaganda machines I've ever seen.
The
Like,
Got Milk campaign when we were kids in the
n
90s.
well, okay, like, what's the fear of soy? What's the fear of overconsumption of soy?
The it's like the thing about the hormones and whatever,
Right.
like, you can have
Right.
too much estrogen or
And
something, is
what
it?
milk actually has hormones in it?
Cow's milk.
Cow's milk,
Like, yeah.
because it comes from a mammal. It
Right.
actually has estrogen in it, and soy milk is bean milk. And
Yeah.
they've been able to convince basically the entire North American and to some extent, I'm sure the European markets that soy milk will operate on your estrogen pathways and feminize men. And they've weaponized that against everyone. They've weaponized it against women and men when soybeans just have phytoestrogens. They don't impact you really at all. Totally safe for consumption. It's sheer nonsense.
But it's also a bit of a
Yeah,
red herring too anyways, because you can eat other forms of non-dairy milk as well. Like, it doesn't have to be soy. I actually now
of course.
I drink a lot more oat milk than I do
R
soy milk because I
right. Well, I think
prefer
that's
the
where oat
taste of
milk
soy.
I
But,
think
like,
that's where oat milk, like, made its huge like, some of these other milks,
right.
almond milk, oat milk, I think they made their huge rise in the wake of the misinformation campaign around soy. Soy there's a reason why meat market, like, the meat industry and the dairy industry target soy so much. Soy is the number one disruptor. It's a complete protein. It produces tofu, tempeh, you get edamame beans, you get, like, TVP, you get all these things from soy. 70% of it or so is fed to animals because it's a complete protein and it's super energy dense. You can have soy milk from it. Like, it is one of the single largest threats as a single product to the meat and dairy industry ever. And so I think they just target it like crazy. They
Mm.
need to just spread misinformation like crazy about soy. And
Hmm.
it works. It totally works. Men that I talk to about soy, they're like, "Oh no, can't touch that." It's amazing weaponizing like a threat to masculinity.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
you
Well, I think that I mean, I think again, even the plant-based milk craze that has
yeah,
happened,
yeah.
this increase in access to plant-based milk, I think has largely been driven by women. I mean,
Oh, sure.
I
Yeah,
think within
yeah,
almost all of my friends do not drink cow's milk in their
yeah, yeah,
coffee or their
yeah,
tea or in any capacity. They'll still eat cheese for sure. They eat cheese.
yeah.
They have charcuterie boards, which is obviously
Mhm.
such a big thing, but they don't have cow's milk. And it's like, and obviously to some extent, it's like if you're able to eat copious amounts of cheese, you could have cow's milk. I mean, the lactose is higher, but
Sure.
it's not. That's obviously not the
Yeah, yeah,
primary
yeah.
reason, you
Yeah.
know. And in an underlying way. But it's interesting because you're right about the cow's milk, in North America, but it is different in Europe.
Yeah.
I remember because growing up, obviously, what would we do with our dinner and whatnot? We would have like a glass of milk with dinner. I mean, when I was in Italy, like when I lived there, they will not give you a cappuccino afternoon.
Mm,
They're like, what do you, and I remember talking to a friend there and I said, well, I want to order a cappuccino. And he goes, no,
mhm,
no, no, you can't have a cappuccino. I'm like, what do you mean? Why can't I have a cappuccino? And he goes, well, what do you mean? You don't have a cappuccino, you drink milk with your dinner? Like, what do you mean? You can't have a cappuccino. They
mm,
view it as a breakfast thing.
right.
So they're like, you can't and I'm like, yeah, we do in North America we do drink milk with our dinner. Like as up into a certain age. I don't think a
Oh my
lot of
gosh,
adults
the
do, but
dairy
some people
lobby
do.
pushed so hard to make
Yeah.
sure kids needed milk, women needed milk for strong bones, like, like, it makes no
I mean,
sense.
I do think that there's a calcium. I mean,
It
not to
makes
say that
no
you can't
sense.
get
What
calcium from other
mammals
ways, but is it true that you can
but
but
what mammal drinks milk? Like, what
past
is so
infancy?
unique
Right.
about human beings that we need milk our entire existence into late adulthood? It
I
makes no
think
sense.
yeah, I think that the main thing is though that I think we do need calcium
Sure,
to be able
sure,
for our bones, like,
but
that is true.
sure,
Are there other ways to get calcium? Obviously.
tons of Is
milk an efficient way to get calcium.
I don't even know if it is. I don't even know if there's anything demonstrated as y sure, there's calcium in milk, but is it better than any other way? I would like, for sure, if you were to Google a research paper, there would be many out there, but I would also say that there's maybe a reason there's many out there.
And I will say, like,
Yeah,
for babies, I know, from now having one, that the amount of fat that babies need,
yeah,
now he's over 1, so obviously the first year is a lot of
sure,
breast milk or
sure,
formula or whatever the first year,
yeah,
but and you need that complete nutrition source. Then after 1, it shifts and they're getting most of their nutrients from food, but the
right.
they still need a lot of fat.
Well,
And
they're
no, it
growing.
doesn't need to
Yeah,
be cow's milk necessarily, although a lot of people will switch to that,
sure,
but it's easy to get that degree of fat
sure.
from
Milk.
milk or cheese or yogurt
Well,
or
milk is
whatever it
a
is, right?
growth stimulator. That's what it's
And
for.
and babies are growing. They just
Yeah,
need to be growing.
but I'm not contesting that.
Right.
Like, I mean, we were talking about this right before, right?
Yeah.
Because I want vegan kids,
Right.
and of course I want vegan kids. I'm vegan, and so I like it's vegan to give your child milk, not cow's milk, human milk. That's what milk is for.
Right, but at a certain
Yeah.
point in there, and I don't know when this shifts, but I'm just saying, like, and I don't think you necessarily have to do this, but
Mm,
after a year or whenever, breastfeeding stops or what have you,
yeah.
then they do still need an efficient
Right, but what are you
fat
using?
source. Well, so we're still using formula, which is a cow's milk. Well, I don't know if it's cow's milk, but it's a milk derivative.
Okay.
Protein is processed differently or something so that he can process it. But anyways,
Okay.
the science behind that I don't know. So we're using that right now. It's expensive, so we're actually trying to shift off of it, and we've just been given permission to use goat's milk if he likes it and if he can tolerate it. So we can shift to goat's milk, for
Right.
example. So, and I mean, our pediatrician told us, he's like, yeah, I mean, because I asked about other plant-based milks, and I have heard, again, just on Instagram and things, not reputable sources necessarily, that you can use those
I think they're
as that.
soy based.
But
Yeah.
he said it's not gonna give you quite as much of the same degree of what the dairy milks will give you.
Right.
And again, I don't actually think there's anything wrong with what you're saying for, like, for older children or for adults. I think you're probably right, and not knowing much about the science that we don't
Yeah.
necessarily need milk, and so many of us are lactose intolerant.
So
But
many. Yeah.
when does
Mm.
that shift? I don't know. Like, is it when we're 5? Is it when we're 7? Is it when we're 10? Is it when we're 8?
Well, I mean, we're
I mean,
hardly breastfeeding at
well,
7.
no, but I'm just saying I don't know that young children are necessarily lactose intolerant. I'm saying I don't know when that changes, right? Like,
Yeah.
when we start to develop
Yeah.
a lactose intolerance,
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know either, but I mean, this maybe comes to the next point about veganism, right? Which is veganism is not about our diet, really. And you talked earlier about the difference in the shift in me between an environmental vegetarian, and then I would say that a transition happened while I was vegetarian. And maybe before I answer the question myself or feed anything, what would you say from your perspective was that shift?
From
Do
going
you
from
remember
vegetarian to vegan?
from vegetarian to vegan, or did you notice anything while I was a vegetarian that started shifting into something else?
Well, it was
Yeah,
I mean, definitely I think you touched on it earlier, the fact that you're at some point where you start to really become grossed out by meat.
yeah,
And I do think that that's probably something that I would imagine someone who's really gonna stay committed to vegetarianism or veganism would
yeah,
probably need to have, because I think that's
yeah.
where you started to have a shift towards the animal rights component.
Sure.
What I what I would sort of describe as animal rights
Yeah,
focus of
yeah.
your belief. And I think that's been the biggest shift from vegetarianism to veganism.
And what do you remember, if anything, what was the trigger, or do you remember why? Because of course I have my own feelings about what that was, but do you
I
remember
mean,
anything?
it's hard for me to figure out between what I've heard you say now and what you said at the beginning. I think that it was probably from my recollection that it was likely to do with the sort of the mass the what would the word be? The mass production led, like, then your feelings around there's a word that starts with an E that I'm forgetting. Not extrapolation, but
Exploitation.
exploitation
Sure.
of animals in the
Yeah.
context of the production of milk and the production of the eggs
Yeah.
because the humanity of the
Good word. The humanity, yeah. That's an interesting
that's
interesting
an interesting word for
take.
someone who's not a vegan to use.
Well, and I have a whole theory about that, or position, I guess, but you
I know
use the
you
right
do,
word, yeah.
but I wouldn't I didn't probably intend to use that word, but
You
you're
didn't, but it's an interesting word to choose because we
yeah.
often use words like humane to describe barbaric
And it was
things.
probably the word I was searching for, but then I used humanity instead, and I did catch myself as well that that's the
It's pretty funny.
no, because I
It's
do
pretty
think
funny though, it
but
is.
because from a
Yeah,
philosophical perspective, I do
yeah,
get, and I know this is
yeah.
probably where you're going, that
Well, it's where I'm going, but I mean, it's also yeah, it is.
that fundamentally the shift, I guess, societally from veganism to or is the fact that if we don't view animals as being on par with humans in their rights, right?
I don't think it's about on par, right? Because I'm not out here advocating that we should be giving the same rights to a chicken as we do to a kid or an adult or a human being. But do they not have the right to their own life?
So, I guess, do you agree with the consumption of meat or like in certain situations? Like, if we didn't mass produce meat in the way that has given rise to the
Yeah.
conditions that animals are subjected to.
I think that there was a time and place, and I think that if put in the situation where my survival was on the line, I'm not suggesting that I wouldn't necessarily kill something to survive. The same way I wouldn't necessarily say it like, I might kill a human being to survive if I had to, and I also am dead against killing another human being, but I would protect myself, right? So, I think there's this view of vegans that we have this, like, flowery, utopian view of society and that everything would be great because of, springtime and flowers and butterflies and whatever, lollipops, but that's not true. We just at its core, veganism is just living without exploiting animals, right? And so, I mean, exploitation is exactly that where practical and possible. So it doesn't even demand that in you survival situation, you wouldn't necessarily choose to kill something or eat something's flesh because you have to.
But not just
But
in a sorry, go ahead.
well, I don't know exactly where I was going, but of course I would do absolutely everything to not do that. I think you would also do that. Like if I dropped you in the forest, you would probably wait until the last moment to kill another animal.
Right, and I do think that we have, as a society, we have really removed ourselves from the animal part of it all.
Yeah,
The meat, like, even the names,
and
right, that we use for meat.
yes.
Like, we like, I heard this once, like, a long time ago in university that it's like that there was something about you could tell who was doing the cooking and who was doing the killing of the raising of the animals because of the language they were in. So, like, we
Mhm.
use the English word for the animal, but then we use the French word
Yep.
for
The meat.
the meat.
Yep.
So, like, we separate ourselves
Yes.
from the animal even
Yep.
by virtue of what we call it.
Yeah.
And then we also package it in such a way that we can't tell.
Yep.
You know, like I was telling you the story about
Yep.
how I went to a steakhouse here in Ottawa,
Sure.
and the steakhouse is very, fancy sort of steakhouse. And, Mohammed and I are big foodies and we like to go to these kinds of things. And even I, as a non vegan, non vegetarian, was kind of put off because
Mhm.
they spent a long time explaining the how the how the cow was fed, how the beef was,
Mm.
like, where it was from, how the cow was fed, like, pasture, and I was and
Yeah,
they
that's
do it to try to, like, entice people, but for me, I
yeah.
was like, "This is a bit disturbing. This is, like, t"
It's an interesting thing. So, like, I was we were Marie and I were at a dinner, and I was showing some of the clips of conversations I've had, one which I had with JL, and one of the things that drives me the most nuts is when people explain to me their happy meat. In fact, I was talking to Roland about this, and Roland always talks about it because we were playing tennis last year, and he was like, "Yeah, but what do you think about the happy meat thing?" And what, and I have no time for it. Like, I have absolutely no time for it because to me, an animal is a slave, right? And they are born into slavery and exploitation. And the fact that you put them in a nicer cage or feed them slightly better food does not make their servitude to humanity better. It makes it weirder and crueler in some ways. It's like, "Oh, look at me. My slaves have nicer fields." And I'm like, there is an argument here that a shorter, worse life is better than a longer, drawn out like, you're still committed to slavery. And so, I don't care. It's one of the things I hate the most as being a vegan because I find that you get and I talk about it a lot, people come up to me and it's almost like they ask for forgiveness about this. They're like, "Oh, well, I don't eat that much meat." And I'm like, "I don't care." Like, I'm not preaching to you in this moment. And so what to just to circle back very quickly to what you were saying about being hardcore. You're my sister, so you see a different side of me. And you see my arguments, and because you're closer to me, it frustrates me more, just perfectly honestly, right? Like, I want to convert the people closest to me because we were raised together. We have very similar ethical frameworks. We have very similar views on the world, even though they differed and changed and, grown differently. But I want people to be like, I want everyone to be vegan. It's not unique, but I specifically want the people closest to me to be vegan. And I treat it like a test every single time. And I want, you know what I mean? I want to see what works, what doesn't work. And it's frustrating when people are not. But strangers or friends or like acquaintances, they constantly repent to you as a vegan. I think even as a vegetarian, I got it a bit, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I could be" like, everyone's like, "I could be a vegetarian," you've said this before, many, many people have said this before, "I could be a vegetarian except for cheese." And I'm like, "Then do that. Then do that." Like, immediately, it's just like, "Just do it. I'm gonna call your bluff immediately. Do it. You're lying, first of all, and that's okay. It's because you feel bad and you feel uncomfortable in this moment and whatever. Fine. But I don't care about your happy cow. I don't care about your happy chicken. You don't make me feel better. To me, it's very binary. You're either a murderer or you're not. And people listening who are not vegan are like, what the heck? That's crazy. But that's how you see it. Not when you are starting to become vegan, but when you're in it, that's how you see it because it's still killing. Now I just say things. I was with Kevin this weekend, right? And with all his friends. And they're like, oh, so why are you vegan? I'm like, I'm just not so into killing. And they're like, "Oh, and I'm just like, "That's true. That's the reason. I wanna live my life without killing things." And that's essentially what veganism is. It's like a conscientious objector, right? Like, you're
Well,
just like,
one could argue that that's what vegetarianism is.
"No, I would say that's what veganism is." Animal advocacy is pushing for animal
No,
rights
but
and
what I'm
for
saying is that I guess that because for me, I don't think
Go ahead.
cheese and milk production and egg production necessarily kills the animal.
No, but it does. The thing that so that was the difference between me being vegetarian and me being vegan is that I thought exactly as you do. And I really thought it. I really, really thought it. I was like, I am free from death as a vegetarian. I thought this, but it's not true. What happens to all the baby cows that are born because of milk production? What happens to all the baby chicks that are born because we need to raise egg laying hens? Where do they go? We raise billions of chickens a year. We raise hundreds of millions of cows. Where do they go? The male cows are killed for veal. And the female cows who are used for milk are killed like 4 years, 5 years, 8 years later. They're repeatedly impregnated, and then because they have to be, because they're mammals, they have to get pregnant to produce milk. Then when they don't produce as much milk, they're killed. So the fact that we remove this from the narrative is very intentional. And so I fully believe that. When you have to raise egg-laying hens, half of them are born male. The males are killed day 1. They're hatched, and then they're blended. It's
Blended.
blended or suffocated. Blended might be a bit more merciful, but obviously shocking. And so we think I thought that eating eggs I really truly thought that eating eggs was free from death. It's not. Why? Because we're psychopaths. And, like, it's worse than that. It's actually way worse than that because actually the individual is kind and compassionate and loving. And the expression you have on your face right now is exactly what you should have because no one wants to be a part of it. No one wants to be part of death. No one wants to be part of cruelty or suffering, but it's hidden from us
Mm,
and it's hidden from us intentionally.
mhm.
And so as a vegetarian, I thought I was doing pretty much what I could do to help the animals. I'm just like, "Yeah, I'm a," and that's why I get what you're saying, like, that's why that's the conscientious objector is, she's like, "No, I'm not participating. I'm just separating myself."
Mhm.
But eggs and dairy are like that too. And for frankly, I mean, I don't maybe have much of a leg to stand on as a man here, but from a feminism standpoint, dairy is insane. Like, human beings have to impregnate female cows repeatedly for them to produce milk and then steal their babies from them and kill them. There is no limit to the cruelty of the human being if you simply can check your conscience at the door. All of this conversation, all the conversations I want to have, me stepping more into light now, because you know what? I become vegan and I'm alone. I become vegetarian and I'm alone. And I spent years in the dark, quite frankly, scared and not wanting to go out there. And so you saying to me that I was convicted and passionate, honestly, it feels good that you say that. But I've had conversations with other people already here, and they're like, "No, I wouldn't see you that way at all.
Mm.
You're such a gentle vegan. You're not pushy at all." And I'm like, "Wow, I really have failed." And so at least not so much with you that you've heard my piece and you've heard my bit, and that's good. But I need to figure out how to bridge the gap. I'm not saying I have the solution, but I'm less interested in converting you here in this moment or any individual in this moment. And I'm more interested in figuring out what is the divide? Where do we go from here? Because vegans are only 1% of the population, and we're different than vegetarians. Veganism is about justice. It's not about giving animals the same rights that human beings have. It's about determining what rights does another living being on this planet have to themselves, to their life, to their experience. Do we really own and control absolutely element, like every single element of everything that lives on this planet? Humans kill and pillage everything we can in the name of progress, in the name of nutrition, in the name of advancement. We're not okay. And you used the word humanity earlier. And I would say that, especially in this climate that we're in right now, cognitive dissonance is a disease. And if you're able to check your morality at the door, something is wrong. So I think the calling is actually greater than simply deciding what's on our plate and turning it around and deciding, how do we as human beings, how do we as a species want to leave our mark on this planet? Because it's not just about every single individual, it's about us finding ourselves. And I don't think we're as cruel as this world has shaped ourselves to be. I think that if you put every single human being in the position to decide whether or not those things would happen to those animals, they would say, no, do not do that. I think almost every single person would. And if they didn't, you'd probably turn and say, they're a psycho, you know? So,
Yeah, I think people probably a lot of the time when it comes to veganism and vegetarianism, I think that they often, it's like people pick their causes. And
yeah,
I think we have a way of sort of as people, especially now when we're so constantly bombarded,
yeah,
in many ways with everything going on in the world and there's so much suffering that
there's
people
so much human suffering.
there's so
Yeah.
much human suffering
Yep.
that people, have a way of sort of maybe it's some sort of almost a survival mechanism in a sense
I think
of
it is.
just kind
Yeah.
of,
Disassociating.
disassociating from certain things. You almost
Sure.
have to pick and choose what things you're going to be sort of passionate about. And so I think a
Yeah.
lot of the time people will put the, you know, veganism, vegetarianism as being this is something that's kind of I'm doing different things. Now, and I think sometimes people aren't. I mean, I'm not saying that we all actually are. I think we all
No,
like to think we are, but I
but
mean, it's
so what do we do? So I have a vision of a vegan world. Probably won't happen in my lifetime. But if I can advance that in any way, what do we do? You understand veganism, at least through my eyes a little bit, and you understand it as any person who lives on this planet in Canada in this case, like, how do we bridge this divide? How do we move from thinking veganism is a cult to thinking veganism is the same as anti-racism and feminism and you know what I mean? Like any other justice movement where you are fighting an uphill battle. You're fighting strong institutional frameworks that are not easy to combat.
I mean, I think that there have been tremendous gains in the last 10 years, and there's
For
probably
sure.
been some steps back as well, but I think that there have been a lot of gains. I think that one of those the biggest gains has
Mhm.
probably been the accessibility
Sure.
of plant-based products,
Yeah.
because I think that a
Yeah.
big barrier for a lot of people, and even with the cheese thing, is, like, actually think a lot of artificial meat has gotten to a point where it's quite good,
Mhm.
like, I mean, I eat plant-based pepperoni all the time because
Mhm.
Muhammad doesn't eat pork, so it's like, I am familiar with some of those products, and I think that some of them are
Mhm.
actually not bad, but the
Yeah.
cheese is not, in my opinion, has not gotten there. It's
Yeah.
not at the
Yeah.
point where people,
Yeah.
for example, would feel that that's a substitute. But I think that the centrality of what we talked about at the beginning of
Yeah.
meat as a celebratory or a communal meal and the
Yeah.
accessibility of that. I mean, right now it's just at the point, I think, where a lot of the time there's a lot of, and I mean, in our family we see this a lot because mom, and others in our family are vegan and gluten free. So it's so much like from scratch. And I
Yeah.
think that's a challenge because the like, there's people just have a lot less time to be cooking. There's a lot less people, a
Yeah.
lot of people that are cooking still, but I think there's a lot of less people that have the time to cook as well. So there's a convenience factor
Yeah.
if you have to make a lot of things from scratch. And then I think people don't want to have overly processed things either.
Yeah.
Not to say that you can do all of that without, I mean, India is a great example, right? Of curries and things like that, where
Sure.
you can make all those things without even using soy, really.
Yeah, but it's
But
a it's an just to maybe lean into the point you're making, it's already hard to be vegan. It's and I've talked a lot about the social cost of being vegan. If you also have to be separated and isolated from your traditions and family events or events with friends, you've got like an increasingly hard battle, right? And so it's hard to be vegan alone. Well, it's hard to be vegan as a non-vegan looking at vegans. When you're vegan, it's incredibly easy to be vegan if you're actually vegan. And I'll say if you're actually vegan because I think there's a lot of people that say they're vegan and I would say they probably don't fully understand veganism. So, I mean, you're touching on the tradition piece, which I think is critical to one of the elements in this idea that I have, which is about targeting those dishes, targeting those to try and create the best vegan alternatives that we possibly can, because we need to make it easier. We just like to me, the solution does not necessarily lie in converting the individual. There will be individuals that will simply hear some of the things that vegans say they see some stuff and they're like, "Oh no, this is not for me. I'm done. I'm becoming vegan," or maybe they become vegetarian first and then they become vegan. Great. But after you get all those early adopters to push over the threshold, like right now we're at 1%, maybe 2%, 1.5, 2% at most. If we could convert all the vegetarians, we would dominate, like, because there's like 12% of the population or something like that. The global population is vegetarian. But in some ways, vegetarians are also quite hard to go after because they're also entrenched in their position. And they also think that they're doing 90% of the job. I know as a vegetarian, I thought that. Vegans told me when I was a vegetarian, they're like, you should really become vegan. I'm like, come on. I'm basically vegan. I'm vegetarian. But you're not. You miss the plot entirely. You're just like, I'm not eating meat. The other one is I'm not eating an animal or I'm not exploiting an animal. And they're totally different. They seem the same. Practically speaking, they seem the same, but they're not the same. That's the change in me that
mhm.
you would have seen,
Yeah.
right? The change is I'm not eating meat, and the other one is like I'm leaving animals alone. It is not my place to rule over their life. And so vegetarians feel like they're doing it all. I know. I was a vegetarian long time, longer than I've been vegan. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, I also want to go after them because they're an easy group. Maybe. I don't know.
I do think that it's kind of like public transit,
Mhm.
like the struggles that cities have with public transit, in that I think you have to make public transit just as convenient, if not more convenient than
Then driving,
driving,
yeah.
to make public transit appealing to people. And I
Mhm.
think that that's probably the thing with veganism,
Build it and they will come.
is that
Build it and
you
they will
have to
come.
make it just as convenient or just as appealing as meat products, if not
Mm,
more, for
mm,
people to do that. Like, I think in our family, the biggest shift that we've all collectively had is mom becoming a vegan.
yeah,
Because mothers in general, they say they kinship making or something,
sure,
and that mothers tend to be the ones who really carry down their traditions.
sure,
The traditions, whatever tradition you grew up with celebrating Christmas or whatever holiday you
yeah,
celebrate, is often the mom who's gonna dictate, and
yeah,
a really huge part of that is because the moms have historically, and even still I think today largely,
yeah,
do a lot of the cooking.
yeah, yeah,
And so much
yeah,
of traditions is based on meal production and
yeah.
what you're eating and the traditions around that.
Mm,
And
so target
actually
mothers.
as well as being your sister and as being in the family, I have found that transition to be somewhat hard because I associate very emotionally with
No, I've
a lot
completely
of
nuked all of our recipes.
the
All
entire
everything we've
all of
grown
them.
up
Like,
with.
I
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
now be the one to take over making those if they're still gonna
yeah,
be made, right?
yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it is it's completely gone almost, the
It's completely
traditions.
gone.
Like,
Well,
and
it's not gone, but it's changed, and
but traditions are inherently they stay the same a lot of the time.
right. I
So
guess
this is
that
that's
is
so
part
that's
of the idea of traditions.
it's a little, you know?
Yeah, but okay, but that's a nonsense argument at its root, right? Because it's the same thing as like racism or slavery or any of those things. It's like, yeah, that's the tradition. That doesn't matter. Like
But in a
in the
tradition
face of justice, why does that matter?
but in it sure, but in the context of, like, a tradition of, like, Thanksgiving, for example, or which, I mean, there's a lot of controversy around Thanksgiving, there's a lot of things, around a lot of these holidays, but in any
Yeah,
event, like, people have an emotional attachment to those holidays. It's
sure.
not just it's what they eat, it's what you're doing, it's who you're with, it's like a whole,
But yes, but it's those elements that matter more.
well,
Who
it
you're
should be, but
with,
we
what
associate memories with food.
I
We
no, no, I'm
associate
not
those, so I'm
disregarding
just
that. You're
saying that,
absolutely right. I
you
think we
know
target the food, but I don't know. Yeah, I think you're right. Target the food, and also honestly, you're thinking about mom is that's brilliant.
well,
Actually,
because it
you've
has
given me a bit of an idea.
but it also what I think it is I wouldn't even necessarily say it's like target moms, but I'm saying like it shows the way in which the changes that
I might
happen
target moms though.
you
I
could
might.
but the way in which the way in which that there's a bit of a top down.
Yes.
See, because
Yeah.
you approached it, from behind kind of, or you approached it from
Well, I
as
targeted
being
mom.
you're not no, but like you're not the one as sort of powerful as you maybe can be in our family and as
Well, no, but I
whatever,
was never
but you're
gonna.
not the one making the food.
No, no, you're absolutely right.
The people
Yeah.
making the food are the ones who dictate what you eat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a
Of
bit
course.
top down in that way,
No, no, you're absolutely
Yeah.
right. Maybe if you can speak to that shift in our family, because it has been very significant over the last 2 years specifically,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I have found it challenging.
and now you and Tasia are basically alone.
We're the only ones.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
We're 6 people.
Yeah. Well, and then
We're
you've got,
spouses,
our
yes.
spouses
Yeah,
and, yeah, I mean, I found it very challenging for sure
sure.
because
Yeah.
I'm someone who really, Christmas, Thanksgiving, like Easter, I love those holidays and I love what we eat at those holidays. There's a lot of emotional attachment associated with those dishes.
Oh,
And I think the other thing too for me is that I became a mom in that same period. And so those are then traditions that I've now wanted to pass on.
and we've robbed you of them.
Well, or I'm good just gonna have to do it, So, like, the last time, like, I made
Yeah,
the turkey, and, like, in a way, I guess I always is the oldest woman in the family, and unfortunately, that's probably the case, but I kind of knew at some point in time, sure, the torch would probably be passed to me, right? I'd
yeah,
probably have to be the one to sort of take on doing some of those things, and that's often how it goes, but it was probably 10 or 15 years earlier than I expected it would
sure.
be. I mean, and mom and dad are still hosting, but, like, if I want a turkey, I go buy the turkey, I have to be the one to make the turkey.
Yeah,
So yeah, so I mean, because I think that it does in that way, I've definitely noticed
yeah.
the divide, like, in that sense.
So, and just because this series is called The Non-Vegan Experience, even though hearing you say that makes me so happy, it also makes me sad, and I'm sorry. Because I never like, to me, it's so clear, It's so unbelievably clear that it's the right thing to do, and so I'm willing to really burn anything for it, you know? And I mean, it was Marie that helped me go after mom, like, in an effective way, because it's not like I held back arguing with her in the past. And then mom just, like, in a month or something,
Yeah,
you
it
know,
was
like,
crazy.
it
Yeah. Yeah.
was she said she was going whole food plant-based, I think, for, like, a month or maybe 2 months, and then she became vegan. And now dad even talks like a vegan. Like, he's not vegan yet, and he hasn't said it, but
He still eats eggs. Yeah.
he's talking like a vegan a lot. He
Yeah.
steps in to make like, the other day, he steps in to make arguments to defend me.
Yeah, but again,
Yeah,
that is way less impactful on
yeah.
the family
Then
dynamic
mom.
than mom having become a vegan.
Right, but
Yeah.
yeah, but even so from my side of the fence, right, I'm
It's
like,
hugely
"N
beneficial for
no,
you.
my
For
life is
you,
so
it's so
different.
much
My life
easier.
is so different."
Before, you
It's
would be the one always having the separate
and
meal.
I was ridiculed by mom the most,
Right.
publicly, in
Yeah.
front of friends, in front of family, in front of all our extended family. She didn't hold back, and she also knows I can take it, but it's hard to be ridiculed by your mom,
Mhm.
um, regardless of how close we are and whatnot. But, like, really, for me at this point in my life, I'm just like 4 down, 2 to go, and that's how I see it. And I do think, like, right now, I actually would say that you're the least likely.
Always said that.
Tasia is the one I am targeting the most.
You've always said that.
Yeah,
You've actually told me
yeah.
before that you think I'm never gonna be a vegan.
I don't
You
I don't
actually have
think
you don't y
that was maybe more of a threat, if I'm being honest. It was
oh,
more of a bait. I'm more baiting you. Um, but,
I don't succumb to peer pressure that easily, and I think you know that.
well, I think that you drop hints in people's lives and you don't know how those seeds will grow into something else. But it's yeah, my life is awesome now comparatively.
I can
Compared
imagine
to
it would be,
3 years
yeah.
ago,
It's much
4
more
years
difficult
ago,
for me, but I can
I
imagine it's easier for you, and I and I'm not saying that to
no,
be, I'm sort of saying that tongue in cheek a little bit,
I
but,
get it, I get it. Yeah,
but
yeah.
yes, I can totally see how it would be. I
And
mean,
then
and to
well,
be
no,
honest,
you and Tasia have both expressed frustration in moments, of course, about the fact that 4 of us are vegetarian. Well, 2 vegans, 2 vegetarians.
yeah.
But I never it's funny because I've been talking so much about traditions and cultures and the impact of those moments, family gatherings, and the implications because I'm trying to understand it more. I'm trying to understand what is it that really like, what are we really getting at? Like, what is it that people really like out of those moments? Is it the turkey? Is it the you know? And because I'm trying to understand that piece as best I can to go after it, like, to target it. And I don't know, I'm just like, I've heard Tasia's frustrations and rants like, and just, like, "Stop, like, enough," but you guys are outnumbered now, and I take it as a point of personal pride, but it sucks, like, it
Yeah,
must suck, yeah.
but no, but it doesn't, to be fair to you, it doesn't suck the same way that it would for you, because at the end of the day, we're not outnumbered in general society.
No, yeah.
So, I mean, you being outnumbered in the inverse is far harder. Like, I wouldn't
Yeah.
say that our experiences are comparable just because it's
You're
frustrating
right,
for
you're
me,
right.
it's not the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah, but it is
Like,
your family still.
sure, it is my
Every
family.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, I think what I find difficult is that I find that I actually dislike, and this is true for like some vegan restaurants that I've been to, is and I'm sure, and I think you sometimes like this, but I would say sometimes I dislike when
Mm.
restaurants just try to make too many dishes that would be meat or cheese into something that's not, and I'm just like, why not just go with a bowl food or something like that,
What do you
where it
mean?
doesn't feel like
Oh,
it's
fake?
lacking? Like, for example, when
Mm,
mom made, like, the tofu schnitzel, I'm like, "I
mm.
eat schnitzel, so for me, this is, like, not good." But, like,
Yeah,
whereas if you're making
sure.
a bowl or a
Yeah.
curry or something, you can make I completely agree that you can make those
I
just as good
Yeah,
without meat.
for sure, but I think that's well, I think you know where I'm going with this. That's a huge divide. I get that. I get that all the time. Will says this all the time. He's like, "Why would you eat fake meat if you can just eat beans?" Like,
Well, I'm
why
not saying you can't eat it. I'm just saying for me, it's a frustration because I feel like the food then in our family is not as good, really.
Oh,
But
yeah,
sometimes it's very good. Like Shara makes really good
yeah,
baked
yeah,
goods, and
mm.
some of the meals that are made are good.
And I'm bad at this piece. I'm bad at the food piece
You
because
don't care.
I don't
I
care.
know you don't
I
care,
don't
and
care
that's
anymore,
you
and
don't
I
care.
just
Yeah,
don't care anymore, and I
yeah.
just it's not look, I enjoy food, and everyone tells me, they're like, "You wouldn't understand. I'm a foodie. That's why I can't become vegan." I was a foodie. Like, I was a foodie. Like, you grew up
Yeah,
with me. I
yeah,
worked in kitchens.
yeah,
I was a foodie.
yeah.
And so I reject this. I reject it entirely. Like, JL says that all the time. He's like, we're foodies." I'm like, "JL, you first of all, you knew me when I was a regular person." Like, so they forget this part.
Yeah, but
But yes, I don't care
to
anymore.
be clear though,
Yeah.
but I actually don't think that you can't have really good vegan
Of
food.
course, yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
actually just think that we haven't reached that level necessarily in our family. Some of the dishes
Well,
are very good, some of them are
and
maybe
also
not, and
you're
it's just
testing stuff out.
testing stuff
You're
out.
testing stuff out.
Yeah,
So,
it's not to say that we can't. It's
yeah,
not to say that people can't. I mean,
yeah,
there's like what is that Madison Fifth or whatever that restaurant is in New York where they have all vegan dishes. Like I mean, there's lots of really really acclaimed chefs that are doing really interesting things with vegan cooking. So I
yeah.
just to be clear, I think that definitely you can have good food.
Uh,
I just think that some places have not met the mark and that sometimes the dishes don't
right,
hit
but
the
this
mark.
is part of the challenge, right? So but part of me thinks that even if you were to tomorrow make vegan alternatives of every single thing, would we really win over the whole population? I don't think so.
Not yet,
So,
no.
which means the problem is bigger than food alone, because I could across the planet, we could find versions of food that are probably pretty close or good enough. And for me, I in several discussions, I mean, as I discuss this often, I'm like, look, if you're 80% there, I mean, even for some things, I'm like, if you're 50% there, I'm good. I'm good. But if you're 80% of the way there, that's a that's a small price to pay for not having to kill something. Like, super small. And most of them to me are 80% of the way there. Most. Yeah, some cheeses not as good, whatever. But I mean, I had pizza at your place yesterday. Yeah, it's good, good enough. Like, and I get it. Like, I'm not delusional. I remember what pizza tastes like. I kind of remember. Honestly, I kind of remember because that was probably 3.5 years ago that
Yeah,
last
you
time I had
probably
pizza.
don't
But
really, yeah.
no, I remember. I remember it's better. Like,
Yeah.
and I know that people have stuff and they're like, this is nothing, like, whatever. But it does not matter. It doesn't matter. You wouldn't turn around and say, "Yeah, cool, I'll have this chocolate, but this chocolate's better, but if it's made by slaves, you won't eat that chocolate." You won't do that in society anymore. And I'm not saying it's the same,
But
but
people I mean, yeah, but
justice
we also separate ourselves those things happen too, and we also still separate ourselves from
for
that.
sure. But if you knew, and if
Well,
it was made obvious, would you not wanna change your ways?
if it was made really obvious, but I think people buy things like that all the time
Yeah.
without realizing it, but
Yeah.
they could know.
Yeah, maybe
You
you're
know,
right. Yeah.
I think that there's a couple of hurdles there because I think that in general, I mean, even when you think about diet culture
Yeah.
or you think about, there's a lot about longevity these days and there's lots of stuff out there. There's a
Mhm.
lot of things that people have been told and that's fairly well researched they shouldn't be doing or eating or people already don't do that. People already have
Right,
difficulty not eating as much sugar and not eating myself included. So
right,
like
but you're focusing on the sacrifice. What about the victim?
right, but what I'm saying is that people view it as a sacrifice. This is where you as a vegan have trouble realizing it because you have decided that you don't care anymore
It's
what you're eating. You will eat tofu and rice if that's all that's presented, but most people
I'll eat
don't feel
rice,
that way.
I'll eat crackers. I
People
it
have
doesn't
enough difficulty just giving up putting cream in their coffee for dietary reasons, not even to do with vegan or
Yeah,
not eating cake or cookies or whatever, even if they know it's not good for them. And I'm
yeah,
not saying and myself included. So that's a double hurdle that you have.
yeah.
People don't like to give up things,
I get it, I
you
get
know,
so
that they like.
how do we get them? Like,
Well,
but if we identify that making it easier is one component, but it has become easier, right?
yeah,
It has. And so we can continue to make it easier. But what's the social gap? What's the you know what I mean? Like,
I think it's like the public transit argument that I said. I think it has to be equally as appealing, equally as convenient, or more than driving a car in that analogy. Like that to me, I think that's
and go after
probably
moms and target moms.
well, I mean, I
Well,
think that
it's not a bad idea. It's not. No, 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 no. There were many, many ad campaigns that targeted mothers specifically, and I think they were very
Mad,
successful.
Got Milk.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, yeah,
Because you're not wrong in identifying that mothers have significant influence over their family units.
yeah, the kin keeping.
So,
Yeah.
okay, we've gone on for some time. I don't know what we're at time-wise here. Probably an hour and a half, maybe. But, what do you think veganism can do as a movement to become cooler or maybe more in group? I think that a lot of people look at vegans and don't think those things. So, what would you say the approach would be?
I mean, I think that that's very difficult to identify because I think that the mark is always moving with what's cool.
Yeah,
That's what makes it cool.
right?
You can't keep like it's the same thing with like brand names or designer items. Like fur as a relevant topic just made a huge comeback in the fashion industry and there's, so it's like people but that's always moving. Like things like that, trends and stuff always shift. So I don't know that there's a one
Real fur
that
made a comeback?
yeah, I think so. Like I think that people are wearing more fur.
I hope it's
Like
faux fur.
some of it's faux fur and some of it's real. I don't know. But anyways,
That's
the
crazy.
point is there's it's luxury and what is luxury,
Okay,
what
not
is considered cool,
mm,
what is considered is always changing.
well, yes, except there came a point when it was not cool anymore. Maybe cool is not the word, but that it was not appropriate or in group or allowed or sensible to be blatantly sexist, blatantly homophobic. Now, we've had a resurgence of these things, no doubt, but en masse, the narrative and the zeitgeist has shifted. And so, what did those movements do? What did they do? You know what I mean? Like to like anti-racist campaigns. Like what did they do to make it be or to make it easier or more appealing to be on the other side of the fence than this side of the fence? Because this is something I think that as vegans we need to identify. Because when you go into a situation, right? And if I'm trying to convert you to be vegan, first of all, I'm on the moral high ground. I know I'm on the moral high ground. And most vegans, I would say, don't care. We know where we are. We know where we stand, right? And so some are very gifted and can navigate this appropriately, but you're basically just talking down to someone. So you're already in a bad position because you're like, I'm trying to identify these gaps in your connections, the cognitive dissonance and the you say you love animals, but you act in a certain way that's incongruent with this. So you're already facing a challenge because no one wants to be told they're wrong. No one wants to be told they're doing something that's inappropriate or that they're acting foolishly or that they're acting cruelly. So people don't like this, but our movement is not alone. Like, I think we need to shape it and understand things like the suffragettes and what people did in those moments to really push the narrative, not just get to the place. Because I think that veganism has a couple different moments that it needs to get. One, I think we need to get past 3% of the population because then we can make significant legislative change. Because this historically is what forces government change is a significant mass of the population and vegans are outspoken. We are not quiet. We are a convicted group. Once we hit that, then we need to really force like the remaining early adopters and then start bringing in the big middle, you know? But to do that, we need to make it in group. We can't be so out group. Veganism is accused of being a cult because we're so serious. We're so convicted, right? And I'm your brother. And we see this completely differently. And you probably at times look at me like, I don't know, I'm not in your head, but I know I see it from other people. I can't say that I've seen it from you, but I see it from other people that they're like, what is this guy thinking? And I know I met vegans when I was not vegan. I know what it's like to be on the other side. I remember kind of. So what do we do? What do we do? Because it's a real systems problem.
Well, I think that there's 2 different see, this is the thing, is the first time you asked me the question, you asked me what can we do to make it cool, and I
Sure.
think that's a different the suffragette movement, for example,
Yeah.
and what you just said about being cool, I think those are 2 different things.
Okay.
But the
You're right.
because I think that there's, like, the version of the movement of a movement, which is convincing people of the convictions.
Sure.
And I think that then there's the version of the movement which is being cool. And I will say that I think that vegans have probably made inroads a little bit on both of those points
Yeah.
in different ways
Yeah.
in the last 10 years in particular. But which of those paths is more palatable to people? I don't know. I think I would argue that if you're going with capitalism, if you're going
Yeah.
with consumerism, I
I'd
think
love to
being
go with that one.
cool
Yeah.
is probably more effective in some ways, but at the same
Oh,
time,
you
you're
mean
not
sorry,
wrong.
you mean align with capitalism or consumerism?
Well, yeah, in the sense that when
Mm,
you appeal to people by virtue of things being cool, by it being trendy,
consumption.
like, I think a lot of inroads have actually been made on that basis with, for example, plant-based milk. I mean, that is
Sure.
cool now. It is much cool
Yeah, but is
it's
it
cool
cool
to the
because
point that now everyone does it.
yeah, but was
It's
that
not
no, no, but was that cool? I don't know actually, but was that cool because it became cool, or did it become cool because just, like, almost over a couple of years, at least in Canada where we live, and definitely a lot of the Western world at the very least, just, like, shifted over. To your point, I don't know many people who drink
but people
milk
only do
anymore.
that because it's trendy. I mean, it's the same thing with pants.
Mm,
People now all of a sudden everyone wears wide-legged pants. Why? At some point, someone decided that's what everyone should do, and then they do it.
right.
It like so, that wasn't no, people
Yeah.
no, they're not doing
So they're
that
not
because of
mutually
ridiculous
exclusive, those 2
they're
things.
not mutually exclusive, but, like, I'm
Yeah.
just saying it's 2 different approaches and it's 2 different questions, and I don't know, I mean, but I think you can get places with both, I mean, I do think that the argu the arguments behind it or the
Mm.
reasoning behind it is still something that may resonate with people, but I don't know that it resonates quite as much as the cool factor, I don't know. That making it accessible,
So,
really.
yeah, part of my thinking about is I want people to wanna be vegan.
Right,
Like
yeah,
right
and I
now
guess it
in
is cool
veganism
is not the right
internally,
it's you're right, it's actually that the people want to do it.
yeah, that you
But see,
wanna do it.
but the thing where I think you would struggle with that with veganism is that I
Yeah,
do think to be actually vegan, I do think you have to be convicted of the
sure,
things that you believe.
of course.
It's too hard to do it like
Mm,
I think that
making conviction cool.
you have to be yeah, but not
Mm.
conviction generally, but that conviction
Well,
specifically.
no, but there's a
That's why I
more that
do
you can
think both those
piggyback,
things
like,
probably
you
need
can
to be.
piggyback off of conviction being cool in this moment, perhaps.
I suppose you could. I mean, but I think both
Mm,
those elements probably have to be there. I don't think it being cool is enough, is basically, I guess, what I mean. It
mm.
does I think it's too much. Like, it's not just wearing a pair of
No, no, no,
pants
no,
and
no,
not
it's
just
not,
drinking
it's
a
not.
shifting your
It's
no.
not, but you need well, I think that we need to think about the identity of being vegan and the perception of being vegan, because I think that a lot of people as I was vegetarian, many people in our family said to me, "You can be vegetarian, but don't you dare be vegan." Like, why do they have so much hate on for vegans? Vegans are, like, the most hated group.
Yeah.
Like, so we need to change the narrative so that the 99% of people who are not vegan stop thinking, "Who are those losers who are vegan?" Like and a lot of people are like, "No, I don't think vegans are losers." But really, if you were like, "Would you become vegan?" I think a big part of the reason why they'd be like, "No, I wouldn't become vegan," is because they don't wanna be out-group. They don't wanna be
I
alone.
also think it's the inconvenience.
Yeah.
There's an inconvenience factor. Like, I think that a lot of the time people, will have that mentality. Like, I think a lot of people, and I think a lot of people are like this with a lot of things. Like, for example, even you could probably learn a lot from the fact that alcohol consumption is decreasing.
Yeah.
Like, that is something which,
Mm.
surprising in a way, and especially as millennials. I mean, millennials, we are like one of the largest alcohol consumption groups, but but the generation after us is apparently really not consuming alcohol very
Yeah.
much. And
Yeah.
why is that, right? So that is probably something that would be a
Mm.
little bit more, that you could sort of see what the reason is for that. But I think that a lot of people are, for example, okay, if somebody doesn't drink, but they then,
Mm.
if you're someone who drinks, but they don't like it if you're gonna say, "Well, now not everyone now no one can drink around me." Like, that then inconveniences you in a way that is very different than that person just in isolation choosing not to drink. And with food preparation and stuff, I think the reason why you get that hate about being vegan is because then people are like, "Well, now when I invite you over, I have to now accommodate your dietary restriction. I have to figure out what
Yeah.
it is I can feed you, and I have
Yeah.
to, like." So it adds a layer.
Oh, it's complete
It is not without its prejudice to the people that you deal with, basically.
no,
They
not at all.
deal with an inconvenience. And it's not to
Oh,
say like
it's radically changed my life in that way. Like, I in the sense that I don't go out to dinner with any of my friends anymore, I don't see them nearly as much, in part because of this. I don't want to invite them over. I don't wanna deal with it sometimes, so I'm just like, I don't wa and to be honest, I'm so freaking vegan now, I'm just like, tough. Like, Tough, I don't care.
But most people are not gonna want
I get
to
that.
have that.
No, no, I get that. I totally recognize that, and also it's been extremely lonely for me as an individual,
Yeah.
even as a super social individual. There's some people that have been willing to accommodate sometimes, but not all the time. And I'm not like and that's okay. I'm not asking them to do but you can't just on a whim go out. I can't grab a bite with people on a whim. I can't really, you know what I mean? It's completely changed my life in that way. And I'm an incredibly social person. So this has been sad. And in part I didn't even really recognize it until recently that it's like, "Oh, well, why wasn't I invited to this or why wasn't I whatever?" It's like, "It's because I'm vegan." Like, I don't wanna go to a fucking barbecue. Like, I don't
Mhm.
ca you know what I mean? Like, I don't I don't, and I definitely don't wanna go to a pig roast or, like, what and these are things that I get invited to sometimes, and I'm just like, "I'm not going to that. This is sickening."
Well, although it is
You know?
crazy that is that in and of itself. You've been invited to a pig roast in recent
Yeah,
years? Wow.
yes.
Well, anyways, that I find that the
Not
barbecue
even
thing.
just one, which is crazy. It's 'cause I got a couple friends who like doing that kinda
Oh,
thing, and so I've just been like, "I'm not coming."
yeah. I mean, I
And then once I went, and I hated it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the barbecue thing, pig roast aside, I think are like, that I find weird because that's very easy to accommodate,
It
in my
is. It
opinion.
is easy,
Like,
but sometimes it feels like an inconvenience to me or them or vice versa. It's just it's awkward sometimes, and you know what? People I think that some people are like, "You're making a mountain out of a molehill," and, no need like, it's totally fine, but it does change relationships. It's to pretend otherwise is nonsense. It does. It does change your relationships with all the people around you. The hardest people is the closest people. Strangers are easier. New friends are easier because they've only known me as being vegan. In some ways, my hockey team is the easiest because I'm like, "Yo, I'm vegan, deal with it." Other people who knew me growing up, they still kind of question why and why did I have to in part kind of like almost I'm not maybe I'm putting this on them without them feeling this way, but just why did you do this to me? You know what I mean? Like why did you do something that changed how we have to interact? It wasn't fair. And maybe it's not fair, but I don't really care anymore. And I know, especially given my own relationship, I answer to them now. You know what I mean? I answer to all the animals that have to be slaughtered in the tens of billions every year. And I'm not going to be quiet about it. And I don't want to make people comfortable. I'm not here to make people comfortable. I'm here to try and impact change because this is an atrocity.
and this is why I say that your veganism is really much more of a religion, because I think that the experience, and I'm not saying that other
Yeah.
vegans are not, but I'm saying that the experience even that you've had, I think in a way, even if you're in your social sphere, is a
Yeah.
lot is very probably similar to what somebody would have who either wasn't religious or was of a different religion and then converted to a religion, and then all the people around them are like, well, hang on, now I have to change how I'm around you, or now you're speaking to me in a certain way and I don't really like it. And
Yeah.
so it's actually very similar to that in a way in the experience. But again, it's because for
Sure.
you it's not just the way you eat. It's the whole
I think that
philosophy.
for a lot of vegans, that's the
For
case.
sure.
So
I'm sure that
so
it is. Yeah.
for any vegans who would ever be listening to this, I think they're like, "Yeah, I'm vegan." And part of it is I think vegans need to reclaim veganism. Even in veganism, they're like, "Look, vegan like, the meat industry is massive."
Plant-based.
Like, the meat industry is massive, and the dairy industry is massive, and they've got lots of money, almost infinite resources comparatively, and so they want to absolutely destroy the reputation of vegans. They do. They want to. If I was sitting in that position from a business perspective, I would want to as well. Because it's a threat. It's a massive threat to a nonsense industry, like a nonsense industry. So economically nonsense. Think about the amount of money that is wasted in the meat industry. You have to raise all these things, spend all this money, subsidize all of it from government, do all these things and then there's like 20% waste in it. It's like you would never accept it of any other industry. You would never accept it, and yet we do. And environmentally, it's insane on the planet. We're destroying everything. It's complete nonsense. And so for them, vegans are a threat. I see it pretty clearly now. And so they want to destroy the vegan movement. They do not want us to proceed. And I would do this I really would do the same. From a business mindset, I'm like, "Yep, I'm targeting those guys for sure." Brilliant campaigns against men, feminizing soy, like all the stuff I was talking about, making sure that men feel like you need to eat your meat and you're not manly if you don't eat meat. Like, this is so ingrained in men. It's so toxic, but it's so ingrained in men. Like, I don't know, we got an uphill battle here. We got a big uphill battle to try and kind of push through this. But vegans should be proud that they're vegan. They should be proud that they're vegan because we're right. We are on the right side of history. I don't care what people say. I know that. I think you know that. I think most people know that. Most people would turn around to me and they say, "Yeah, vegans, like, we appreciate what vegans do." It's like, "Great, thanks. Appreciate it all you want, but I'm not gonna care until you're vegan." And that's the truth. But we are on the right side of history. And so I'm just not willing to wait 400 years until the world decides it's time to be vegan because we've crippled the environment so much that we have to do it selfishly.
Mm,
Let's do it proactively.
yeah. And I do think, to be honest with you, that I think that there's a lot more probably people that would be convicted by the environmental and health reasons in some ways than the animal rights. There's
For
definitely a
sure.
lot of people who will
For
think to
sure.
be
And they're
very
more
convicted by the
selfish.
animal
They're more
rights, but
selfish reasons, which I think is okay. I'll use whatever we can get. Okay. We've gone for a long time. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Is there any last thoughts or maybe questions? I asked you a couple of questions. I think I had 7 questions. I don't think I
yeah.
asked you no, I think I only asked like 4, but that's okay. Do you
Um,
have any questions or any thoughts?
no, I don't think so. I don't think so. But it was good. It was good a good chat. It was a good time to,
Time
actually, the
flies.
only
We're
thing I'll say
yeah,
is just on your last comment is that I remember very distinctly when you had first become a vegetarian and telling
yeah.
one of my colleagues at the time that you were vegetarian, and I just remember his shock of being like, "I wouldn't have imagined your brother was a vegetarian by how you looked," because he felt like you would be like he actually, I think, made the
Yeah.
comment that he would think that you could be a farmer, which I thought was weird because 'cause I'm like, "You don't know my brother, I don't wanna get" like, not to say, like,
Well, I was probably working
you
on the
you
farm at
actually
that
might have been
point.
at
Yeah,
that
yeah,
point, but,
yeah,
like, I
yeah.
mean, like, you're an urban guy,
As an
like, you're
oats
not,
farmer, but yes.
yes,
Yeah, yeah,
like, you're not, you're not, like, out from the country or whatever else, like,
yeah.
we didn't grow up that way. Basically, it's like, I was, like, surprised, but at the same time, I also get it, like, you're a
Because
big
I look like
guy,
a dude.
you're well, I wouldn't say that's a little bit offensive to people,
Is it?
maybe. I think
Oh,
that's a little bit, but
didn't
but
mean it
but
offensively,
the
but
you're I don't know, you seem like a guy who would
like
eat
I
a
look
lot of
like a
meat and
bro.
potatoes or something.
It's
Yes.
that's what I mean.
Oh,
I
that's
look
what
like
you
a
mean.
bro, like
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know?
Right. Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think sometimes, especially if I have a backwards hat on.
Yeah.
Definitely do.
Yeah. 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 So you're
But
not
that fuels me, those comments.
well, I think it is good because it means veganism has, like, representation in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say in many ways, not that I would take away from anyone, in a really good way, because veganism is certainly or men are certainly targeted with the most anti-vegan propaganda,
Mm.
like, for sure.
Yeah. And
Um,
far more women, I think, consume plant-based milk.
for sure.
Yeah.
Or are vegan. No, no, like,
Or
it's
are vegan.
it's
Yeah,
a
sure. Yeah.
huge,
Yeah. I
huge
can imagine. Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think I don't maybe I'm off now, but it's something like 3 out of 10 or 2 out of 10 vegans are men. So, we are not a lot. Like, the vast majority of vegans are women. Maybe it's higher now in men, I think. I think there's been a bit of a surge, but it's certainly way less than women.
Yeah. You guys
So
definitely gotta get the famous vegans, the Leonardo DiCaprios of the world or whatever. Is he a
N
vegan?
no, but he is a
Oh.
vegan advocate to some extent. He's a
Oh, I
huge
thought he was a vegan.
environmentalist. Yeah, I don't think he's ever come out and said he's vegan, but
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Maybe he's
yeah.
not then. Maybe he's
But he
vegetarian.
supported vegan projects, I think. Yeah.
Mm.
Joaquin Phoenix,
Oh,
he's our boy.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's your boy.
Big, big
Alright.
vegan, yeah.
Okay.
There's many, yeah.
Yeah.
Woody Harrelson. There's quite a few. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Interesting. There you go. Well,
yeah, there's quite a few.
that might be a path.
And, like, famous, like, a lot of like, Djokovic, the tennis player, he's vegan. Anyways, not that you but
I wouldn't know who it is. Yes, but
yes,
yeah.
but no,
Yeah.
there's a lot, and there's a lot of famous there's I would say disproportionately famous vegan athletes
Right.
than the 1%
Right.
that we are.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, I don't know if Arnold Schwarzenegger is like a vegan, but yes, he's mostly plant-based, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
He's been huge, I mean, he helped make
And a
and produce
bodybuilder.
yeah,
So,
and Game Changers and
yeah.
stuff like that, so no, that's been huge, but
Yeah.
okay,
Alright.
thank you so much.
Thanks.
We're done.
Alright.